Jessica, why don't you guide us through the agenda? I can't pull mine up on the screen here when I have the Zoom going.
All right.
To identify the items, if you would.
Sure. Okay. So the first thing on tonight's agenda is a special town meeting. We need to set a date and open the warrant. So a couple of departments have requested a special town meeting because there are just a couple of things that we need to clean up before the end of the fiscal year, including there was an oven that broke at the beginning of the year at Quabbin, well, at Ruggles Lane. So the town will need to fund that. And then there's also a USDA loan that the sewer department has applied for that the town will need to vote on, and I'm still waiting on more details on that loan. I have a meeting with Tom George this week.
Okay, I thought we talked about the schools up and then we're going to see if they couldn't find something a couple $100 less and put them under the $5,000 threshold.
So we did talk to them about the oven, and I guess a different type of oven ended up breaking like right after the town meeting happened. It might have been around August.
Yeah, I thought that's when they came to us about this oven.
They had come. Yeah, they had come to us about a different oven earlier in the year before our annual town meeting, and we had squared that away with them, but then right after our annual town meeting, one of their different ovens ended up breaking.
I believe we talked about it on the town meeting. And as we told them that the budget's already been set and done. What's the price tag in this oven?
Let me just go back real quick and find it.
Well, all I can remember is that it was very close to the beginning of the school year in August, and we had already had our town meeting, and after discussions, I believe that the decision was made for Quabbin would upfront it, where they would pay for the for Ruggles Lane equipment, and that at a special town meeting, we would reimburse. What was it, $5,000, I think? I'm not sure.
I believe, yeah, it wasn't much.
But it's a major oven at Ruggles Lane.
Yeah. And they had.
At the time they put it on the purchases of $5,000 a number and taking care of the school. The repair items over that become the town's burden, and I thought it was,
I'm having a real hard time.
Find something a little under $5,000.
I'm having a hard time hearing you, Greg. I don't know. I don't think it's you. I think it's just garbled. If you can get closer to the microphone or something.
Yeah, it's probably 18 inches from me.
What was your recollection?
Maybe there's a sensitivity button I can look for.
I'm guessing there are emails back and forth.
It's not clear to me, Greg, so maybe it's the,
Yeah, it's
the
my
audio system over in the Henry Woods.
Yeah, I think it's our speakers.
Okay.
The lowest quote was $5,665.
Okay.
And this was back in sometime late last year.
Well,
I don't think
I'll
that's
make sure
this
to go
one.
back and find the meeting minutes in the recording, and I'll once again go find the time and date when we talked about what was covered and how we left the discussion.
Well, I'm guessing there's emails back and forth between the district and Jessica that we can review to be confident about what the situation ended up, or what the agreement was. My recollection is they were going to upfront and buy the thing, and that we were going to go to a special town meeting, which we thought would be earlier in the year, more like in the fall, but obviously we're not in the fall. We're going to be doing it sometime either in February or March. So I think just checking the emails back and forth, let's see what the agreement was, and then when it's appropriate, we'll put it on the warrant or not. Because if you open the warrant, it just.
I believe we discussed it at the meeting, that when I suggested it's awful close to that $5,000
Right,
No.
You know, we can open and close the warrant, put it on the lawn anytime up to.
yeah.
Right.
Our
I mean, we can open the warrant tonight, but not close it for a week or two,
Right.
so, depending on when the date is that we'll set for the meeting.
Right, and then anytime up to our posting of the actual warrant, we can open it and amend it and close it at any given meeting for ourselves, so too bad an item to the warrant.
Right.
So we need to open it, you know, we can open it this evening when we set a time and date for it. We'll open it to the public for a week, and to our town department for a week, and then we'll close the warrant, and that gives us time to set it up and talk about the articles. And then when we settle the other issue, we look at, we decide what we want to do, we will open the warrant on a meeting, place that article on it, and then close the warrant. So we can always add this in later up until our day that we need to post this.
Well, when are we thinking of the date? Do you have a date, Jessica?
I was thinking the last week of February or the first week of March.
Okay. Does it either make any more sense holiday-wise? Is everything going on? I'm bad at looking at that.
So President's Day is the last week of February. That's the only conflict.
Okay, so maybe we do the first week of March.
Okay, so probably March 1st.
So that March 1st is a Tuesday, is that all right?
Yes. So I believe we usually do Tuesdays, don't we?
Yep.
And so now we need to post this, I believe it's 14 days prior.
20.
I know the actual warrant.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a week prior the warrant has to be posted. We have to put the warrant in a given area, it's either 1 or 2 weeks before the meeting.
Right. I think it's at least 2 weeks.
So basically, we need a motion that just says that was set a date of March 1st, 2022 for a special town meeting and all appropriate, shall we say, not advertisements, but public notification to be completed by Jessica?
I need a time too.
All we have to do is set the date tonight, announce a special town meeting, and select the date this evening. And if we choose, we can open the warrant now and leave it open for a set time. Those will be separate motions. Once that's done, we'll see what we have for articles and start working on it. We want to get the warrant ready as soon as we can. We don't want to put it off. It gives us time to discuss the articles and to talk with department heads and things if they want to amend something. And we can always open the warrant and amend issues on the warrant after the fact.
So do you want to open the,
Up until our posting time.
so do you want to open the warrant tonight?
I don't see any reason why not. I might be inclined to leave it open for 2 weeks because we have the time, I believe.
Okay.
So let's say, we don't need to pick an actual time yet, but we can. A special town meeting should be quicker. We can hold it off, say 6 o'clock maybe on Tuesday. And anticipate maybe an hour-long meeting. If that sounds agreeable, we can go ahead and hear a motion to establish a special town meeting on Tuesday, March 1st, beginning at 6 o'clock, to be held at, that's the other thing, we wanted to check the location, we want to go back to Ruggles like we used to do, we want to go to the high school.
Joshua, I talked to Joshua and he suggested having the same setup as the annual town meeting at the high school.
In the cafeteria, high school cafeteria.
Yeah.
If that's okay with the high school, we can clear that deal with that.
Right.
We should be out of sports season right now, I think.
When we set the date, we're going to make sure we have something ready for it. We can always change the location. We don't want to change the date once we set it. But if we think the timeline out, if we want to post 2 weeks before the meeting, that's going to bring us back to mid-February. And we want at least a week to get our publications ready. That's gonna put us into the first week of February. So we could put articles on in our first meeting in February if we needed to make a change. But that means we're gonna be the last week of January to go through articles. So I would think we're gonna want to open this one tonight. And we're gonna want to close it on the Friday before our next meeting.
Okay.
Or even the Thursday before the meeting, so the town offices will open at the time,
Yeah.
at 5 o'clock.
Yep.
So we have the 4th today.
Yep. So it'd be the 13th or the 12th. Sorry.
That would be the 13th, Thursday the 13th, correct?
Oh yeah, Thursday is the 13th.
So for someone to jot these numbers down, we're going to have this closed at 4 o'clock, Thursday the 13th. We can be open this evening when we do it. But first, we need to set the date. So I'll go ahead and make a motion to establish a special town meeting on Tuesday, the 1st of March, at 6 o'clock. Location to be announced.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to establish a special town meeting March 1st, Tuesday, 6 o'clock, location be determined. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And aye. Somebody want to present the motion for the warrant? Opening the warrant?
I'll make a motion that we open the warrant for the special town meeting without delay this evening, and to close at 4 o'clock on Thursday, January 13th.
And I will second that. So we have a motion and a second to open the warrant immediately this evening and close on the 13th at 4 o'clock. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. So we have the establishment warrants open. There's things I want to look at for bylaws one next year, the annual. I don't like to do bylaw changes, the special. So I'm going to try to, for us, hopefully we'll just keep this to business items. Of course, anybody who wants to bring in a bylaw proposal, it's got to have 100 signatures or so with it. Whatever the clerk says is the appropriate amount. I believe it's 100 still with that article. Otherwise, we have the right to take any article we propose and make them our own and place them on the warrant. So if somebody brought you an article and you want to support it, you can certainly present it as your own select board's members article, and we can place it on the warrant, through that app, just so people know it's other ways to get on. Okay, next item.
The discussion on the 10-wheel dump truck for the DPW.
Okay. Did we have any conversations with water and sewer? I did not.
I had a conversation with Jason today, with seeing this on the agenda, and asked him what the status was. He indicated that the status is that it seems that it's a deal for $45,000, but he's, I said, do you need any wiggle room in that? In other words, should we say not to exceed $47,000? He said that would probably give him, some negotiating room, but he feels it's a deal at 45, and is looking for a select board approval, basically saying that this has been on the town capital plan for numbers of years, approved by the select board and finance committees in previous years, I guess. And so that is the information that I have.
Okay. As we discussed at last meeting, we don't have the discretion to just spend $45,000 as a capital purchase item, particularly be on a warrant, need to be approved by the town. set aside budget for this, and we certainly don't have any capital purchase account set aside to draw this money from. We discussed last meeting attempting to meet with the water and sewer departments as they could probably take money out of their enterprise funds. And I guess for some reason that couldn't occur. So I don't see as much we can do on it or act on it because we have no authority to take any funds.
Well-
Direct towards us without a town vote for a capital purchase like this.
Well, the town can, and I checked with other communities, and the town can use the snow and ice funds to purchase this dump truck.
Well, primarily because it is a vehicle that is utilized for snow and ice removal due to
Right,
the,
I mean, it would be a problem for the major roads.
Yep,
The larger routes, and of course, we have a sand.
and it would be able to, yeah, exactly. With the sanding would be really huge for the amount of miles of roads that we have. The sanding part of it would probably be the best benefit to the town.
And as I mentioned before, I believe this truck has use for water sewer pump. You know, and I don't think for a second it won't be utilized by those departments. We can share equipment.
well, there's,
In that case, I would think they should pick up a portion of this.
I kind of agree with you, Greg, but in our efforts to say, would you meet with us, they said that they were just too busy so close to the holiday. So whether or not we want to continue to pursue this truck is really, I think incumbent upon us to say to Jason, yeah, we're going to go for it, and we're going to, determine final, funding sources in the weeks to come, or we say don't pursue it.
It's difficult. I think it's the truck's a good buy. It's a bargain at the price of the miles on it. Trucks in this price range and higher, as we saw at our last meeting, have hundreds of thousands, if not 500,000 miles on it. And this one's very low mileage, and it's a great buy. But I'm very hesitant to take the money from snow and ice and push it on the people. I mean, I think it's the right thing for us to buy, but I'd like for them to have a chance to make a sale. And I think tacking it on the snow and ice is, if it was for a third of it, I'd be fine with that. If we had 15,000 of snow and ice and had this truck available, and water and sewer enterprises picked up a third each on the rest, I would think this is like a jump on that. But it's not coming out that way. This is why we asked to have a meeting with them.
Well, we have a meeting, we have a meeting coming up next Monday, right, with them?
We should meet next Monday.
Yeah.
We can have a selectmen meeting. We can post for a meeting for ourselves and
Right.
discuss at the same time.
Yep.
And if those committees, they should each meet prior to our DPW commission meeting. If they each agree to pick up a third of this, then we can go ahead next week and approve the purchase.
Works for me.
But I would think it should be 15,000 out of snow and ice, 15,000 from water, 15,000 from sewer. Because this truck is certainly going to have a great use for all three departments. If anybody wants to make a motion, otherwise, the welcome.
A motion
I
to,
think we should wait and meet with them as we did at the beginning because
well, we don't need a motion to discuss it next week. We don't need a motion to discuss it next week. I think the discussion is, what should we do? And we've decided we're going to discuss it further with the Water and Sewer Commission and see if we can make up a financial plan that makes sense for the town, correct?
yes, I'm in favor of us paying for a third out of the snow and ice bucket.
Yeah.
It's well worth a third for that, and that's not upset the towns for. But to put 45 to 47,000 on snow and ice, I don't like it. It's shady, and I'd rather have the people get a chance to vote on it at that point. But if each of these enterprise fund puts up a section, then we'll be able to go next week.
Okay.
All right.
That makes sense to me.
So let's move on, Jessica. We'll make sure we notify Shannon if you could. We want to make sure that's on the agenda.
Yep.
For the meeting, if we can actually post ourselves for the select board meeting at that time. And that'll give us the ability to vote on that item, post that item as a separate item.
Okay,
We'll just open our own meeting at the same time as that meeting and just vote on the one item.
sure.
All right. Thank you. Next one.
So the next item for discussion is the senior center director salary discussion.
Jessica and I had the opportunity to meet with the current senior center director, and I know Jessica has some background information to share as well. And the discussion was primarily about money and her desire, obviously, to make more money either by moving along to another position in another community or by negotiating a salary increase with us. And Jessica, if you want to talk a little bit about regional benchmarking, we kind of say, well, where are we relative to other communities? And now that we've had Hardwick join us, does that make a difference in our, in the number of people that we interface with and so forth? So, Jessica, if you can share your information with us.
Sure. Yeah, so as Maureen said, we met with Eileen last week, I believe, and we discussed, that she wants to stay with the town of Barre, which is great. And she also discussed with us that she took another position in another town that was offering a substantial amount more money. And so we asked her what it would take for her to stay with the town of Barre. And she requested $10,000 in addition to her salary. So we kind of figured we would prorate it for the rest of this year and then implement the full $10,000 next year. And when I went back, that was her request, and I went back and I reached out to other small communities to see what they pay their senior center director, and I attached that, sent that to you in an email. And, I think it shows, even though some of the communities are a bit more wealthier than Barre, we are still behind the 8 ball on an average. The average hourly low was $28.10 per hour, and that average hourly high was $35.73 per hour, with most senior center directors making somewhere around $50,000. So I think, if we were to offer her $54,000 going into fiscal year '23, that we would be more competitive with similar sized communities.
I did talk with the members of the Council on Aging just to get a view of what they felt about the quality of the services that she's providing to the citizens, because I really wasn't too confident that we should move forward without talking to the Council on Aging. So we did talk. I talked with the chairperson at length, and they highly recommend her and gave me all sorts of things that have happened and that have improved services to our elders. And so they definitely hope that the board will look favorably upon some sort of an increase in salary in order to keep her employed with us. One thing that the other senior directors often have is they have secretarial help, and she has none. I mean, there's no other person up there who does anything. There's no clerical support. So that is different as well. So this is a one-man show, and whether it's be senior transportation, senior meals, senior clinics, senior, not goes on and on, she has to do everything herself. So that's different. She did indicate, she said, well, I don't even have any kind of a part-time secretary, which is commonplace for all other, senior center directors that she wanted to compare herself to. We talked about prorating a $5,000 increase between now and the end of the year, and that then we would sit down and have clear goals and an evaluative, situation that we would look at how much Hardwick is contributing and how we would fund that. So we talked about making an overture current to the a $5,000 increase, and then working on some contract work that could go as high as another $5,000 to make their $55,000 job, which is commensurate with what we're competing with. Well, probably a little less than what we're competing with, but at least getting ourselves in the ballpark where we'd be able to keep that person employed with us. So we would need, obviously, the board to approve making an adjustment in her salary. And I guess I would recommend that we do that in order to stabilize that organization, which is pretty much in flux, because she'll be gone tomorrow. Well, I don't even think I guess she gave us 2 weeks. So anyway, that's where we're at, and that was my recommendation, that we at least move forward with half of the amount that would be necessary probably, and then we work to restructure job descriptions so that we really know what we're doing come the end of June, and that in July, that position be worth about $55,000.
Thank you. I also received a phone call shortly after from the chairman of the board for this committee. They were very concerned about losing her. We're hoping we can make some efforts to talk to her, to try to keep her, and I assured her that was being pursued by Dr. Marshall and Jessica. So they seemed pleased that we were acting on it, not just letting it go. As I said years ago, when Hardwick came in, basically they have 18 to 20% of our people, which means that was a 25% increase in the personnel that she deals with. A 25% increase of 44,000 to 11,000. I didn't expect to move her up that much, but I did want to move her up at the time. It never happened. And I certainly don't think a $10,000 bump adjustment is inappropriate. I believe we do get at least that much money from Hardwick, and it was my intent at the time to make sure that money in some portion, if not a large portion, went towards an increase in salary for her. We started her as an unknown for us. We started her where the pay scale dictated, and for the number of people we had, and she's proven herself to us, to the seniors, and to the committee there. And she certainly deserves a pay bump. Anybody that has any questions should look at her monthly calendar she puts out, the functions and activities she's done, how hard she's worked to change the busing service to benefit our communities across the board. People love her down there, the communities loves her down there, and I have absolutely no problem coming up with a $5,000 raise for the rest of this year and addressing that salary issue problem next year. Bill?
I concur with what both of you have already laid out. I think we should try to keep the people that we have, and we know that they're doing a good job, that their benefits to the town far outweighs the dollars and cents on the ledger in case of critical personnel like this. So I'm in full agreement with Dr. Marshall and Chairman.
And bear in mind, if she left and we had to replace her, we wouldn't be back looking at today's cover market values and be going to the same number. So it's got to be done. This is one of those things that's below market value. We're very fortunate when we were doing it that she was one that started at that price. I'd go ahead and make a motion to approve a $5,000 increase in the salary to be spread out over the remainder of this year. And we'll address the salary at budget time for next year.
I'll second that.
Motion second to offer a $5,000 increase in balance of this year to Erin, the senior site director. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so up next on the agenda, we have a handful of wage authorization and appointments.
Maureen, do you have those there in front of you?
Yes, I do. Would you like me to read them?
If you have them in print in front of you, use them for us.
Okay. The appointments and wage authorization. Number 1, Timothea Ford as a temporary library assistant at the minimum of $15.31 per hour. Do you want to vote them independently or as a group?
Exclude any fire department, you can do them as a group.
As a group?
Yeah, just exclude
Okay.
any fire.
Erin Ragusa, Canton, assistant treasurer collector at a minimum, her minimum hourly rate $21.54. Officer Connor Sormanti, full-time, off training, $24.98. Officer Patric Gillespie, step 3 increase, $25.71. Officer David McNutt, full-time police officer, $21.84 per hour. Part-time police officer wage increase to $21.50 an hour. There are no fire personnel here.
Make a motion to approve all those wage authorizations made by Dr. Marshall.
Second that motion.
Motion to second is made and approved to approve those wage authorizations. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now, the fire department ones, I'm gonna address those.
We don't have any fire department, so.
Okay, so that one.
All right, so next on the agenda is approval of meeting minutes.
I would recommend the approval of the December 20th, 2021 executive session interim police chief, not for release.
Second that motion.
Motion second, to approve executive session minutes. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, I'll call for vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move approval of the December 20th, 2021 meeting minutes as provided.
Second.
Motion second, to approve the open meeting minutes. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, I'll call for vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 So next on the agenda is correspondence. We received a letter from the East Quabbin Land Trust, Insight Meditation, and the Barre Common Committee about the bandstand.
Would the clerk be willing to read those for us?
I would not be able to easily read the Barre Common Project update for conservation and restoration because it is quite lengthy and gives a very detailed analysis of what needed to be repaired, what was repaired, with pictures and cost parameters. So it may be something that we provide as a document that should be reviewed by members of the committee and at our next meeting accepted.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
it's-
wouldn't mind just giving like a 50,000 foot overview of that.
Okay.
So Paul Cranston came to my office last week to drop off this letter, and he included all of the pictures because what he provided us was a contract addendum, because the work on the bandstand ended up costing more than originally quoted, and obviously, as we all know, the work on the bandstand has gone on for a lot longer than they originally expected. So the addendum is an additional $12,500, which would leave the balance of the account at $24,377.56. And as Dr. Marshall mentioned, Paul included a lot of pictures that I really encourage you guys to go look through because it really shows. I mean, we know that the contractor has been very dedicated to this project, and he's been doing a really excellent job. And these pictures really show what the length that he has gone through to do this project right for the town. So that's that letter in a nutshell.
You might want to talk about the amount of what he's planning to.
So,
I think there's
trying
a,
to understand what you're looking for from us. Is this money funds that are still in the common committee?
yes,
It's just an update.
just an update.
Oh, okay.
They're not, they just wanted to let everybody know where this project is at.
We're close.
For the public, I think the bottom line there was about $36,000. He nearly rebuilt the entire bandstand.
Yep.
He did extensive roof work, painted it, found no leaks, went back, repaired some more, and painted again. It is a tin roof. Repairing a tin roof is monumentally difficult. you have to get down to bare metal before you can seal it with solder or a bump or a box and paint over it. He's done a great job. If you saw the conditions, I don't know if either of you did, but I went down and looked at it because I intended to work on it myself. But the company that put this guy in charge of it, he does pay great attention to detail. His work that I saw, that I wanted to do, is meticulous and of high quality. And when I looked at the basement down there, the repair work needed to the ceiling part of the basement with rusted rebar showing and such, was extensive work needed down the basement. And I think the guy who was repairing the floor gave us some wild number of like $30,000 or $40,000 just to fix the ceiling downstairs. So the fact that he's done all this repair work for this amount of money is incredible. And he's done a great job. He should be commended.
Okay, the other, we have a correspondence from the East Quabbin Land Trust to the Select Board. On behalf of the Board of Directors of the East Quabbin Land Trust, please find an enclosed contribution of $100 to the town of Barre in appreciation for the town's commitment to open space conservation. The East Quabbin Land Trust has added a trail segment at our Prince River Preserve off Flaherty Road to provide walking access to the old reservoir. We hope that many residents will enjoy the trail and the beauty of nature in the coming year. The East Quabbin Land Trust appreciates the opportunity to support the town's efforts to conserving land and determining its future. Eventual passage of the National Research Protection Zoning Bylaw can provide another mechanism to conserve large chunks of critical land. The East Quabbin Land Trust looks forward to its continuing positive working relationship with the town of Barre in 2022. Insight Meditation Society, to the board. As another extraordinary year draws to a close, we are pleased to present the town of Barre donations in the amount of $29,000 for the year of 2021. These gifts are from the Insight Meditation Society, the Barre Center for Buddhist Studies, and the Dahala Virhana Foundation. Please excuse the pronunciation. I think it's right, but may not be. While we recognize that our nonprofit status exempts us from paying local taxes, we are happy and fortunate to be able to offer these voluntary contributions. We are each so grateful for the town's services and for so many years of community friendship, care, and collaboration. Our donations are an expression of our wish to support the town. Throughout our history, our three organizations have worked hard to become increasingly integrated into the life of the town. Many of our employees live in the town, and we make conscious efforts to use local businesses and tradespeople whenever possible. Thank you for your continuing to create a warm and welcoming home for all of us here in Barre. Best wishes for a healthy and prosperous new year.
And the amount of that check for the town,
$29,000.
thank you. I think it's important to know they're very generous. They don't have to give us money. They do volunteer to give us money because they are tax exempt on properties. They're pretty good about giving it close to $30,000 every year to us.
I would suspect we would make a motion to send a letter of thanks on behalf of the board and the community for their generous efforts on our behalf.
I would think we should send a brief letter to the land trust as well. Just the effort to send us some money. Yeah, they're not rolling in funds either, but it's appreciated the gesture. So I'd like to amend that motion if I could to send letters to both.
I'm sorry.
Both.
Oh, yeah, well, I thought I said that, but, yeah.
Oh, I must.
No, that's okay.
We have a motion to send letters.
Yep.
Appreciation to those two parties. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I don't think we have to make a motion necessarily to receive the funds. I believe they can just be added.
So up next,
Lost my trick. That's beautiful. All right, what's our next item, Jessica?
select board reports.
I have nothing.
Nothing at this time.
I'll take a moment to address something I've been watching on Facebook last few days. A lot of people seem to be very concerned about their tax increases to their homes. And although I don't want to dwell on it here, I will take some time at our next meeting. Sort of informational seminar to let people know how the levy is set and how the taxes are set, how the tax rate is set, so that you better understand where these numbers come from. There are certainly homes in town that have not seen a large growth in their assets in the last couple of years. You know, we sort of cap up what houses are worth in Barre. A lot of them homes across the top of the scale. So they probably didn't see much of a rise in the value of the home. But I do believe a lot of the homes in town that are the lower end of the market, they were a hot commodity in the spring. People were trying to buy them up and really drove the prices and values up in these homes. Well, as a result, the valuations, of course, this happens to be coinciding with our 3-year reevaluation of properties. Those homes are appraised in part on the value of the sales in their demographic area of town. I don't know how many demographics the town is set up into. I can bring that information to our next meeting and we'll discuss it further and we'll invite the public in so they can comment if they want. But I want people to rest assured that the levy amount is the amount of money we can tax the town. That amount can only change by 2.5% annually without a special town vote, which we have not asked for since I've been in office. That 2.5% is in relation to the total volume of our levy. But the way the levy is determined is we take the value of all the homes and all the properties out of one lump sum number. And we need to set a tax rate that will provide that levy out of that total value of the properties. And as some properties go up and some properties go down, their portion may rise or fall disproportionately to others. But as a whole, the tax rate this last year went down almost 1.5%. I don't want to be further into detail, but rest assured, we will discuss this at the next meeting. We will look to the assessor's office to get some idea of what the demographics will set up to. You know, you might live in a certain area of town where they saw a 1.3% growth in property values. Therefore, your home would have been assessed at 1.3 times the value that it was just the last time it was assessed 3 years ago. I hope that's enough to give people an idea of where the number comes from. And rest assured, we're not just out spending money like crazy. We haven't added a bunch of money to the coffers or spent a ton of money. We spent almost the same amount every year except for a minimal 2.5% increase in the budget, which allows us to do these payroll raises and salary raises that us do all the time. Outside of that, I think we have any comments you want to add to that. We will discuss this in our next meeting.
I think you covered it all. I don't have anything further to that.
I agree with Greg that it would be useful for the select board to walk through the development of the levy capacity of the community, because certainly Greg points out the new growth issues and the changes in valuation, as well as a 2.5% in total valuation of property. So, obviously it'll be helpful if people are concerned about where did the number come from, and also the erroneous idea that the select board actually makes the budget. Actually, the townspeople vote a budget that might be recommended in its entirety or at least partially by the select board. But I've been at a lot of meetings where the select board does not recommend something and it gets voted, or that the select board recommends something and then it doesn't get voted. So the town people who are at the annual town meeting are the ones who actually set the budget.
Correct. The only thing we actually do in the interim here is we set the tax rate this year, and that's done off valuations. If people are looking for information in the meantime, they can always call the assessor's office to ask about how their particular valuation was achieved, and they can tell them what kind of factors came into changing the valuation of their individual properties, because that aspect is done there. I hope this gives people some answers for now. And since it is a public concern, we will address it at the next meeting. And I will say this, we are entering the budget season, so department heads are going to start meeting the finance committee. If people have a vested interest, which we all do, and they'd like to be more involved, follow finance committee meetings, look at the town government and see where they meet. And usually they'll list what department heads they're meeting with as they set the budgets, try to put these numbers together to form the budget for this year. So So it's a very open process. Everybody's welcome to join in and follow finance and see where these numbers come from, where the requests come from. And then, of course, at time to time, we discuss that in our office. And the budget is presented officially by the select board with, be prepared for us by Jessica and the finance committee. But ultimately, as Dr. Marshall said, approved by the town or denied by the town. Jessica, I'd say you're up.
All right, thank you. So as I told the board a couple of weeks ago, one of our police cruisers was in an accident and ended up being totaled. So the cruiser was replaced by replacement costs, so we were able to recover the full amount for a brand new cruiser off the lot. So that it's going to be another Ford Explorer, which was what we lost in the accident. Luckily, it was our oldest cruiser, and so we will not have to replace another cruiser at this annual town meeting. And also luckily, our officer who was involved in the accident walked away without any scratches, injuries, or anything, so we're very thankful about that. The fire department union, they are ready to negotiate, so at the next meeting on the agenda, we will have to have one of the select board members be appointed as the liaison for the select board to negotiate with the union. Sometime last year, I forget what month it was, but I had received a community compact grant for an IT project, and that is almost complete. We had a company come in and organize all of the files in our building, and that is located in the old Barre Rescue Squad room down in the basement. So I definitely encourage, the next time that one of the board members are here, to go down there, take a look at the work that they've done. And it looks incredible. The building is more organized at this point than it probably has ever been. So I'm really proud that project is almost complete, and I'm in the process of getting all the training to get the online version launched, and then, after that, it's just gonna be a matter of scanning in documents, transferring documents over that we already have digitally into this new software, and hopefully it will make our department's lives a lot easier as they try and find documents, and if they're trying to share documents with other departments or share documents with the public. Hopefully all of that relationship will improve a lot more. And then the last update I had for you guys is that I got an email yesterday from DG Matrix, who's doing the Spring Hill Road broadband project, and they are still in the legal stage where they're getting permission. They are submitting applications to Verizon and National Grid, and they're working with Peter Sam, so we can basically use Peter Sam's existing agreements to keep going down Spring Hill Road, so we don't have to extend this process out any longer. But other than that, I think that's the news in the past 2 weeks.
Excellent. They did indicate that the approval process was the most lengthy part of this, and they delivered on the wires in days.
Yep.
So once the approval's done, it will happen quickly for folks. But it's drawn to an end. Glad to see.
Yep.
I would look for the appropriate motion.
Seeing no community members here for public comment, I would look that we adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. I'll just check with Jessica if there's any Zoom members asking to be heard before we do that.
Not at this point. We have Claire on the call, and I don't see her hand raised, so.
to address the sentiment, which she's looking for. Okay then, there no further discussion, I'll go ahead and call for the vote, all those in favor?
All right,